Well, I think that's a fantastic time to bring along our next panellist, Catherine May, who's Corporate Affairs Director at SABMiller. So, Catherine, I was at a launch event that you hosted along with your chief executive, and I think the entire executive team was at the launch of Prosper, your new sustainability initiative. But Prosper is a very interesting word to choose to reframe the work that SABMiller has been doing in this space. So why Prosper, and how did you get the executive committee along to this huge event that you hosted in the summer?
Well, in terms of getting the executive committee along, it was quite natural that it was something that we all felt ownership in, and we're quite unusual for a FTSE PLC in that our executive committee is 14, so it's quite a big group of people. We talk a lot about sustainability issues at the executive committee. We don't always call it sustainability, kind of to Steve's point, which was an absolutely fantastic point actually, because there are so many business touch points where a sustainability mindset is really important to getting the right long-term sustainable business decision, but you don't need to necessarily frame that as sustainability. I totally get that point. But so it is part of what all 14 of us are thinking of all the time as we review operational plans and strategy plans. So it felt very much a natural thing that if we were going to a new level in our sustainability programme and a new plan and setting tougher targets for ourselves, we would all want to own the launch events for that. And Prosper, we felt, is a really nice balance for us around the kinds of impacts that we have in life. We do have, as part of our business purpose as a business, the aim to bring refreshment, sociability, improve and create livelihoods for people. That's in there, in our company purpose. It's very important to all of us. So prosperity is right at the heart of that kind of thinking. When you make beer, you're generally making it with local ingredients. You're generally making it very simply. 2/3 of our beers around the world are made from ingredients that are sourced very locally to our breweries. And that means that the prosperity around the communities that we work in, where our businesses are, is very localised. We have examples like Uganda, where we make a beer from sorghum. We have 20,000 farmers and their families supplying sorghum to our breweries. These are people who were producing sorghum as a cash crop before we came along and said, we found a way to make this into beer. And very small cash crop also, so often they didn't have a market. They were using it often as subsistence food for their families in those cases. We've come along and offered them a guaranteed market, 20,000 families, a guaranteed market for their crop. This is absolutely extraordinary, and obviously it's completely transformational. So again, that word prosper really kind of resonates with us and goes to the heart of what we do. And we think when we prosper and the people around us prosper, that means the whole community prospers together. And we really like that. We really feel that's how we are.
So to Steve's point about a client involved in a similar line of business not embracing this agenda, the Prosper agenda, through their M&A. How real is it when SABMiller, which is a pretty acquisitive company, certainly has been, how does the executive team deal with the Prosper agenda when it comes to M&A activity?
Well, the kind of example Steve had was very close to my heart, because one of the key ingredients for beer is water. We've reduced our water dependency in our breweries from between 2008 and this year by 25%, but it still takes us 3.5 pints of water to make every pint of beer. We're very anxious to reduce that amount, but it's quite tough and obviously takes a lot of technical expertise. And that's one of the things that is deeply embedded in our due diligence process when we look at a new property. What is the water scarcity in that community, and what are the challenges going to be in terms of making sure everybody in that community gets access to that water in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. We don't just want to go and be delivering our beer in 5 years' time. We want to think really far ahead with all of our processes. And we've got our investors used to thinking very far ahead with us. We've delivered superior returns in our sector time and time again over a 12-year period, and I think that has won us a kind of comfort level with investors that they know how we work. They know it's long-term thinking, so they will listen to us when we say this particular project will be a long-term payback. And if we want to continue to be making stuff on this site, having access to water, we're going to have to make a capital investment. And we've done that in several sites around the world where we've had to make big capital investments to ensure that there is access to water, or that we protect the groundwater source so that everybody can use it. Local farmers, we can use it in the brewery, the local community can use it, and we can get together with other local forces, whether that's the Water and Sewage Authority, as it is in some places, or other community owners, sometimes it's the local mayor, to look also at the quality of water. And often an upfront investment in quality of water or in farming techniques locally can mean that the water is safeguarded at a good quality and at the right amounts for all of us to continue to use. But there is no point buying a brewery, buying a site, unless we do that work, as your client found
so
out.
have you got examples where you just haven't gone ahead with a transaction because you haven't found the right way of dealing with some of these future issues?
We haven't ever backed away, but what it has done is reshape a transaction. It has reshaped transactions, it has made us look differently at the value, at what we should be paying up front and what we need to pay into these projects. If we went back further in the company's history, Emma, I'm sure we would find things where we were caught out. But in the time that I've been with the business and in the times that I know about before my arrival there, I know this has been something that's been very built in. So for now, I think we're doing a good job. I'm sure that there will have been things that have taught us that lesson, where we have got into situations where we've suddenly faced that situation of, oh, actually, this is going to be a big capital investment. And in fact, I do know that in some of our older breweries, in some of the African countries, in the last 3 to 5 years, we've had to make quite significant capital investment in water projects, particularly again around this quality of water, water scarcity issues, to ensure that those breweries can continue to run. And perhaps way back when they were acquired, that would not have been considered.
So one final question before we move on to our next panellist, and it's around the investor community. I mean, I've been in this very room and asked another chief executive about how interested his investors are in this agenda, and got a very categoric, well, they're just not interested. I've heard from your chief executive a very different answer. So what have you got right, or what is it about your investors that have allowed them to understand the broader Prosper or sustainability agenda?
It just takes time, I think. I think we were early out of the gate on these sorts of issues, partly because of the sort of business that we have. I think when you do manufacturing that relies on local supply in emerging market countries, you have to think very long term. If you want the businesses to be sustainable in every sense, you want them to continue to deliver good commercial returns over a long period of time. So that's a really inbuilt thinking. We've done lots and lots of businesses, lots and lots of plant on the ground in African countries, in Latin American countries, in Southeast Asia, in India, and that is the pattern for us. So when you're looking at investing in SABMiller, you know that's what you're getting into. You know exactly what the package is you're buying into. It's long-term thinking, and there will be these upfront capital investments, but we've had really significant returns over that period of time, and people have got very wealthy from investing in us. So, I think that gives us more than a foot in the door to grab their attention. We're in the middle of some investor seminars right now, actually. We had one in London this morning. The same seminar's taking place in New York tomorrow. And the focus of that seminar was actually our marketing strategy and what we're doing about beer brands to make them attractive in a modern market, which is, a whole other end of the system, you might think. But as part of that presentation this morning, Alan Clark, our Chief Executive, started off by talking about our company purpose and by talking, as part of his introduction to our strategy, about our sustainability approach and about the launch of Prosper earlier this year, because we do see all of that as being intrinsic to our success, and it does touch on everything we do, even, the jazzy brand stuff.